I want to talk to you about the relationship between color and contrast, specifically the power of contrast. And the way I like to explain it is this. I'm going to use this classic image of Muhammad Ali when he knocked out Joe Louis in a boxing match. If color starts something, if color starts the fight, so to speak, contrast finishes it. Color may get your attention, may start you down a path, but contrast is absolutely what wins that battle. Contrast is what keeps you there. Contrast is what makes sure you notice those things that are important. Contrast is what ensures that you take the right action, that you win the fight. In the natural world around us, your eyes and your brain are always working to notice contrast, to notice the edges of things, to notice differences from one level of contrast to the next. So let's say you're sitting on the beach, you're staring out at this beautiful scene right here. Here's what your eyes are doing and your brain is doing, even if you're not aware of it. You are wired to look for differences in the visual field. So even if you're sitting on the beach somewhere, just checking out the scene, watching this little ship sail by with toes in the sand, here's what's happening with your eyes and your brain. They're working. Your brain is telling your eyes to look for those differences right now. It's noticing the boundaries, the edges between your toes and the color contrast of the sand and the water around it. It's fixating on those boundaries. It's also fixating on the boundary between the water and the sand. It's also looking at the edges of the waves, okay, the caps that are being kicked up. It's also checking out the edges of the rocks as compared to the ocean around it. There's contrast there in those shapes, in those edges from one to the other. It's also looking at the bottom of those rocks against the water around it. At the same time, it's looking at the top of that froth of the wave to the water that's behind it. It's also looking at the horizon, the difference between what looks like the edge of the water and the sky, or those trees and the land that's off to the right there. It's also seeing the shape of this boat, this yellow boat that's there against the sky. It's also noticing the shape of these trees in the land in the distance. It's also seeing the trees that are behind that. Even though the contrast is less, it is still noticing them. Okay, so this is happening all the time. Anytime you look at something, your brain is working overtime to detect those differences, even though you're not aware of it. It's how we make sense of what's around us or what's in front of us.